Celebrate your life. Celebrate your love. Celebrate your ongoing. For this is the day that the Lord hath made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And so, beloved masters, to find the new human within you. It isn't like discovering a growth, oh my God. It isn't about an insidious invasion of the body snatchers. It is seeds that were planted in the very beginning when human creation came forward in the DNA, in the genetic system, the potential for the divine human. And first, humanity had to experience what it is to be physical, because the soul is energetic, etheric, clearly connected to the divine, but it is that in a physical form, the soul was in a very new energy space. So lifetimes of becoming adapted to being physical beings. And as the ego self that was created by God to assist the soul to really understand what the physical body is. And in the beginning, this physical form that humans wear was very fragile. It was so susceptible to so many things that the soul was not accustomed to even considering. So the ego was designed to guard the physical form. If you cut yourself, it could be fatal. If you step in the fire, it could destroy the vehicle. Be mindful of high places that you don't step off a cliff, because that could end the physical journey. And the ego was well with its place, but as time passed and humans began to adapt to physicality, the ego self became very concerned that as humanity understood their physical bodies better, there was a very good possibility that the ego wouldn't be necessary any longer. The ego, your personality, part of the self that you know yourself to be, and I say part of the self because in these times the spiritual self is embracing physical, mental, and emotional aspects. It's not taking over, because spirit has no necessity, no desire whatsoever to be in control. The ego mind, however, has been very involved in control. So, as time passed, the ego began to create an elusive situation that would take all of those elements that kept the memory in alignment with the God creation. And I use the word God as simply, I suppose the world would call it, a generic form of identifying creative source. There are thousands of names of God. And the ego mind would argue that the name I use is the name of the real God. And if it isn't that name, then it isn't the real God. And yet, I am answers to all of the names, because it is an energetic petition to the divine by whatever name God is called. Even, dearly beloved masters, those names that the world becomes very irate about, that is blasphemy. Because God feels the energy. And when someone uses an expletive deleted, there is an emotional passion. And anger is a passion, just as love is a passion. Yes, the vibrational frequency is different, but the divine source feels the passion of the outcry. When someone is angry, when they are frustrated, when they are wounded, it is a cry for divine source to help. So the ego began to create religions, which are mental concepts of what the divine is about. The worship of God is definitely a connection to the spirit. But then the ego mind, the logical mind, began to say, this is how you worship God. You do this, you don't do that. You say these words, but if you say those words, it's not the appropriate way to worship God. And then the ego mind began to say, let me tell you how God wants you to live your life. This is what God wants for you. And that began very insidiously to set aside the gift of free will. The magic that was instilled into the blended being, a spiritual human, in the very beginning, before physicality was clear, it is that was something so amazing. The ability to be in tune with nature. the ability to communicate with other human beings without ever saying a word. Telepathy. And in the beginning there was the respect of the sacred that families, those that were in intimate relationships, could commune together without the invasion of outside influence. So friends could speak together, but it was as though it was on a different, now they would call it band wave. There was the band wave of those very close, the band wave of friends, and the band wave of general communication. And for a long time, physical speech was not there. It wasn't necessary. But the deeper that humanity moved into physicality, the more fear the ego mind began to insert into things. Because if people are afraid, they're so much easier to control. And the ego very subtly, very insidiously, began to insert suggestions that the magic was evil. That love was simply a device that would weaken the resolve to stand for oneself and to defend what belonged to them. And time passed. And people began to fear making their own choices. And what if became a major question? 2 little words. What if God doesn't want me to do this? Now, spiritual connection allows you to feel that telepathic, intuitive connection to the divine within you that speaks clearly and powerfully a personal communication between you and the divine. The divine offers support. It offers that feeling of being loved and belonging that revelation is now bringing to the earth as the realization of the new human within each one begins to evolve. So the ego subtly began to separate humanity from their immediate, intimate connection to the divine, God, Goddess, all that is, to nature, the reality of life. And it is, dearly beloved masters, you have lived in those subtle separations for so long, till the reality of life has been pushed behind an illusion of smoke and shadows mind games, control, the ennobling of conflict, and the fear to touch those divine places within you, because what if someone found out that you are intuitive? What if someone discovers that you can see, feel what is going on with them? Which is how it was in the very beginning, and no one was afraid of it. No one was ashamed that someone else would know what they were feeling, what they were thinking. But the illusion of separation has very insidiously brought humanity to a point of autonomy. I must do this all by myself. I don't need any help. I can't let anyone know what I really think, how I really feel, who I really am, because what would they say? And so, beloved masters, the earth has hit the culmination of suppression, oppression, compression, depression, repression of separation. And the frustration, confusion, fear, doubt, anger has boiled up very much like volcanic eruption. The more that humanity spews out emotions that have been held back, the more the weather, the earth, nature, responds to that emotional upheaval. So, in many ways, what you are witnessing on the planet, what you're feeling within yourself, emotional overwhelm, a feeling of perhaps incapability to accomplish the things that are required of you. Why is life so much harder than it used to be? It really isn't. Because all of these negatives, old, outmoded, heavy energies, absolutely are required to be released. And as humanity is releasing them, no one has to carry them like they once did. The collective consciousness is completely involved in these eruptions. Each human being is an absolute individual. Therefore, it is that as each one comes to that place where enough of the shadows of the illusion are released, that you begin to see without eyes, see, feel. hear without ears, hear, feel. To remember your inner connection with the divine, to wake up, to get clear within yourself. Then all of the war cries of the ego, the last vestiges of old order, because the ego loves war. It encourages competition. It delights in setting one against the other. It dwells on chaos and confusion. And the control games that the ego has instilled in the psyche throughout the illusion, those control games are truly creating a lot of what many humans would call the devil's actions. If you take the word evil and you turn it around, it spells live. So, if you're looking out into the world and you're dwelling on evil and trying to get rid of it, then the focus is on evil. Even though the idea is, how do we get rid of it? We must destroy those who are evil. And how you were created in the very beginning, in love without any condition, didn't go away. It didn't disappear, it didn't die. And even though the ego mind has perpetuated the idea that God created all of this and then left, and this is a planet of abandoned souls, no, beloved masters, God didn't go anywhere. But the ego throughout time has woven veils of illusion. And behind those veils, the love, the magic, the unity, the reality of life in its most natural ways have simply been hidden. And all of the chaotic eruption of the emotional nature is a cleansing and a clearing that is absolutely necessary so that humanity has inner space to feel that connection to God, I am, source. It is the more you are aware of your inner space, the more you are capable of creating things that you truly desire. And the illusion has come to a point in all autonomy of illusion. This is all about me. This is mine. That is theirs. And they are suspect. They potentially can take something away from me. Another insidious programming of the ego mind. What are you going to lose? Spirit says, what will you gain in this? How will you achieve more? Not just physical things, masters, because the more you remember who you are, the more that new human, the recognition that spirit is internal. It isn't just God out there somewhere. We'll look at the heavens and see the stars and say, God's out there somewhere. No, beloved masters, your inner space is comparable to the outer space. So, when you look out into the heavens and say, God's out there, then feel into your center. You're not going to find spirit in your head, because that is the realm of the ego mind. But as you feel into your soul center, it's comparable. It is the inner space of heaven. And yes, beloved masters, you are totally worthy for that to be there. It is how you were created in the beginning. And all of the distortions of the illusion to cause humanity to believe that spirit is something that only a few have. Just as money is something that only a few have. That the good life is something that only the few have. And everyone else is grappling, searching, struggling, and in many instances warring to achieve what the few have. The ego mind builds walls. Isolation. I can't let them, whoever they may be, very often them is the people in your life that you most desire to feel love with. Not necessarily the intimate relationship that is shared between two, but a love of family, of friends, of warmth, of belonging. Because, dearly beloved masters, if you are not willing to feel that inner connection, you can surround yourself with people. You can party. You can go to collective gatherings. The church, conferences, classes, and there will be people all around you. And there may be a few that you might, at least temporarily, feel comfortable with. But until you feel within yourself that renewal of your spirit clearly, truly, really, there's still a sense of distance and loneliness that fuels the fires of anger and fear, and an ultimate necessity of these times to let go of control. Let it go. Which is very different, beloved masters, from losing control. Because loss is what the ego mind pushes when you begin to get too close to that place where the veils move aside and you remember who you are. You can energetically be aware of who you are. You can have an imagery of who you are. In the beginning, it may just seem as though you feel within your center light. Let there be light. The first words of the beginning, let there be light. Let's get some clarity on this situation. So the eruptions all over the planet and the majority of the real conflicts are coming from men. This is not a judgment. It's simply a recognition that the ego inspired the patriarchal concepts. And throughout time in the illusion, there have been patriarchies, male domination, and matriarchies, female domination, and yet each one was out of balance. Because divine masculine and divine feminine are parts of the whole, the all, the oneness. And so, beloved masters, that sacred oneness within self, God, Goddess, all that is, blends. And for a long time, the earth has been under the control of masculine dominance. And men felt that if they created an order where the men said how things must be, and the women simply responded and obeyed, then everything would be so simple. But as revelation is beginning to pull the masks of illusion away so that people must show up for who they are, as the facades of the illusion are set aside, then within, in that sacred place, men are beginning to realize clarity, wisdom that they perhaps have overlooked in order to be in control. Men are beginning to realize that to be the one that has to say how everything must function, to control the lives of those around them, is heavy. It is burdensome. And for many, the realization that most of it is a game. And the game is old, and it is tired, it is exhausting, and the call from the universe for oneness. And people are beginning to feel it. The dawning of a new age, yes. The dawning of a new order, absolutely. The next level of human evolution. The physical world offers so much wonder, beauty, goodness, richness. And in these times, the logical mind, the ego mind, may say, look out there. How can you say that in all of that there is beauty and wonder, there is war and destruction, and nature is running rampant? How can you say that is beautiful? Because Spirit understands change, where the ego mind has avoided it. Change is dangerous. Change causes loss. No, it doesn't. Change takes away everything I have worked so hard to get. And yet it makes a space for more. And so, beloved masters, the emergence within self, a feeling, a dawning, glimpses of enlightenment and experiences of change. To live as a physical being, but with that connection to divine guidance. And the more that you find your true self within, the more that you allow the interdependence of spirit with body, mind, emotions, the physical world. The more balance, the more clarity, the more wonder, the more magic, the deeper sense of belonging, of fulfillment, that isn't based totally on what I own as much as it is how I understand myself, how I recognize who I am, how I feel about the world that I, as a spiritual human, create. And so, dearly beloved masters, the conflict, the confusion, the upheaval that's going on the planet in these times, uncomfortable though it is moving out a lot of old things that really have nothing to do with where you're going. And people are attempting to cling to what was. The idea of building walls so that other people, them, they, those people, can't get in and take my things. And yet, walls shut out growth. Walls prevent a lot of change because walls create very confined spaces. How narrow the belief systems have become in the illusion when it comes to your acceptance of your own capabilities. You, dearly beloved Master, are the author of your own life, and yet the illusion has said, don't do this and don't do that, with a very parental voice, and instilled a desperate need to be approved of by the parental society. If it isn't mother and father, it may be strong character figures, a hero, a king, a queen, a leader. And sometimes they are amazing beings, Jesus Christ, Buddha, spiritual leaders of religions all over the planet. And other times, they are those that dominate with fear. Hitler, Mussolini, Hannibal. Those who have created a collective to follow them. But as you discover this blossoming enlightenment within you of the spiritual being that you are becoming, It is, beloved masters, the goals that you set, the desires that you attend to, the dreams began to change from just how much money I can make and how many things I can have. Because as you look out into the chaos of the world, money does not guarantee happiness. Money is a currency flow of creation. It is the energy that the divine provides for each being. Here is your essence of creation. And every being is granted the same amount of essence. It's what each one chooses to create. Some will honor what we will call your daily contribution of essence from the divine, and in that they will utilize what they receive well. They will consider, not in fear, I must clutch what I get close to me because it may be the last good I ever get. And there are a number of different stories in the Master Book about those that God offered the clarity of their divine inheritance, and it was indicated then that the more God gives you, the more you can create. And if God doesn't give you much, then it instills fear. But God doesn't decide you're worth more than they are. In the mind and heart of the divine, all are equal. So when it is said, all are created equal, now, in the United States, this statement is all men are created equal. And perhaps the founding fathers meant that mankind encompasses everything. But it is each being, no matter what the robes of flesh, each being is divine, unique, one of a kind. So a part of revelation, a part of this new becoming, is everyone, every soul is equal. And what the human choices are is what creates the life that one lives. A lot of what we're saying are stories we have told again and again. And the ego mind, in fear that this time you might hear what I'm saying, says, how boring. Don't listen. It's just the same old thing. No, it really isn't. Because in love, I am telling you your story. Your journey from the ancient to this current, very modern, highly technological time, and the point of the next phase of growth as those ancient understandings, the wisdom, the magic, that real connection to nature that you feel within yourself. When that is blended with the amazing expansion of mind, the technology of these times, then it becomes a foundation for a whole new level of growth and awareness, of insights and discoveries that allow you so much more inner space than you've been allowed to consider, that you have been allowed to accept. And there are always those who will make the choice to connect within themselves and discover more of who they are. And there are those who build walls and cling to what little they have, in the fear that they will even lose that. But it is how you, dearly beloved, amazing, divine, creative masters, how you choose to own yourself in these times. Long ago, I granted the earth the violet flame as a gift. A gift of unconditional love. The violet flame is an alchemical essence. It transmutes the negativity of the illusion into love without a condition. And that essence is what you use to create what you desire. Love is the creative source of all creation. As there is light, there is darkness. As there is positive, for balance, there is negative. And how you personally choose to consider your life is how you create. And there are many people that call themselves realists, and their idea of real is look at the horrors that are happening on the planet. If I can see it, taste it, touch it, smell it, hear it, then that's real. But this element of spirit that's opening up in each and every one brings you the consciousness in these times, if you're willing, to see beyond the chaos of a collapsing illusion and to recognize clearly within self that the breaking apart of the old that has imprisoned the human spirit for a long time, the breaking apart, the opening of the prison door, the prison that you have created for yourself, the prison that the two heads of the ego dragon present as, at least in a prison, you are protected. Really? You're confined. You are very often constricted. But yes, you're not given a great deal of choice about what is happening. And there is the suggestion that freedom is what you've got to have that you don't have. And yet, when that door opens on that prison cell that you have been confined to for so long, yearning for freedom, and now the door is open and you can step forward to make your own choices, to create a new life, and suddenly that prison cell becomes the sweetest home you've ever known. And the fear of more, the other head of the dragon, sets in, and the inner turmoil, the conflict. Should I or shouldn't I? Do I or don't I? Can I or cannot I? Becomes an occupation that deters the next step, that inhibits the growth that is available. So humanity is being brought to a point where the conflict and the chaos of the old order is so intensely around you, within you, that the longing for peace begins to shift the focus. You don't end a war by fighting. You don't get rid of conflict. You begin to create conscious coalition. And it is not, beloved masters, dividing into camps. That's still war. It is crossing the bridge over the divide. It is reaching across the aisle. In the houses of government around the world. And I say houses of government. I'm not talking about House and Senate or Parliament. I'm talking about the places where humans have come together to govern. And the ultimate of hypocrisy in the illusion is erupting with everything else. The rich against the poor, the right against the left, one country versus another, one religion versus another, many religions being in objection to one. Conflict. And you must experience that conflict until you feel, and you will feel it. The mind may be looking for something it can identify as the turning point, but when that turning point occurs within you, it will be profound energetically to a place that you will have no doubt. This is it. This is the turning point. This is my change. Now, as the ego mind is wont to do, when someone has an epiphany, a revelation, a discovery, they want to run out and tell everyone else, this is how you do it. I got it. And certainly you can share your experience. But be aware, masters. Personal experience, to feel it, to live it, to be involved in the changes that it brings for you. Experience is the greatest teacher. I was told, it sounds good, it makes sense, so let me tell you what I was told. And because I was told, then you need to do this. This is how you need to live your life. You've got to comply with the wishes of the leaders of church, of state, of organizations, of corporations. You've got to comply with what the leaders say, because the leaders know what they're doing and you don't. So they are there, there's the they again, they are there to tell you what to do, because certainly you are not personally capable or competent to make your own choices. And yet, revelation has thrown open the doors behind which they have decided what you have to do for so long. And many of them, the leaders around the world, that have been making decisions for the masses for so long, aren't even aware that the doors are open and the world now sees what they are doing. The world can now hear what they are planning. and the fascination that we have with observing how these changes are occurring, those who want to live in walls and cling to the past cannot see what those leaders are doing. They cannot hear the undertones, the undercurrents that are becoming clearer all of the time, available for everyone, but they cannot hear that. They cannot see. And as you see and hear, it isn't what do we do to stop them. It is, beloved masters, are you willing? Because you must participate in your life in these changes. Are you willing to live clear? Are you willing to change your perspective of life to a much more positive, more expansive, clearer, more capable life with which to accomplish the dreams and desires that you carry? And it isn't about annihilating the opposition. It is about feeling within yourself the recognition that interdependence is a way that masters share. And sharing isn't a giveaway. Sharing isn't theft. Sharing isn't taking from others. Sharing is the willingness to give and receive ideas, information, energy, with the clarity that how someone else is creating their life may not have anything to do with what you are desiring to create in your life. But as you get clear, as you get real, then the judgments of the illusion, if what they're doing doesn't mean anything to me right now, then it's worthless, becomes, even though in this moment I may not understand what they are creating, I will allow that energy that they are creating to be an amplifier, a magnifier of my desire for positive creations. Because the thoughts, the ideas, the concepts, masters, are energy. And transmuting, spiritual alchemy, the energy, because the power is neutral. The gift of energy from the divine is neutral. It's what you, the individual, you, the divine creative master, choose to see that energy becoming, to feel it developing. Not even necessarily, beloved masters, a concrete form, but the potential for what your dream is about, what your goals are set to achieve. So sharing ideas can be just as delightful, fulfilling, satisfactory as sharing the energy. Because someone may have a piece of an idea that they don't quite understand, but when they share that idea with you, oh, that's the piece you've been looking for your dream. You're not taking it away from them. You're simply using that understanding to form your energy to flow along the path that you are desiring to take, to create. So, billions of ideas and concepts and thoughts, and the more powerfully positive those ideas become, the more amazing creation can be. And the ego has attempted to keep the collective consciousness in a limited belief system so that you simply could not tolerate the power of such wonder. It blows the mind. It just absolutely shatters the imagination. I can't take that in. I'm in overwhelm. And that's the ego mind. But a spirit embraces all of you. To see yourself in a bubble of violet fire with violet mirrors facing in, so that as you are releasing your negativity, as you are venting, as you are spewing out what you feel you can no longer hold within, the violet flame takes that energy, which, yes, masters, is potentially destructive, and transmutes it to a neutral form. Now you've got the dynamics of that much energy available to you to fund your dream. Since money is an energy symbol, some of that energy may actually become financial potential. But the old order of fear and illusion and limitation says, I've got to have all the money that I need, and when there's a need, there's a limitation. If you need it, you're probably going to have some difficulties achieving what you desire or getting to what you're looking for. But it is when you have the energetic resources and the willingness to understand you will never have it all, masters, because your mind can't take that in, and energy is there to serve. Energy is there to be involved, to be creative. So, I desire the resources to move forward with my dream. I desire the resources to move forward with my dream. It isn't getting to the end of the dream, because once you get to the end of the dream, that's an achievement of a goal, and there's going to be a requirement to set new goals, which may be another movement forward of that dream, or it may be a whole new dream. And the ego says, but I've been focused on this dream for so long, I don't know how to focus on something new. I desire the resources to fund my dreams, plural. Because the logical mind, the ego mind, tends to focus on one thing at a time. And as spirit is becoming much more consciously clear in your life, you can begin to embrace spiritual multitasking, where it isn't so overwhelming if you have more than one goal or more than one dream. The generations that have been born since Pluto moved into the photon belt in 1972, those generations are much more aware of how to energetically multitask. But it has been primarily directed at physical things. So that element of higher consciousness, that element of love, of courage, of generosity, of clarity that spirit opens up as the veils of illusion are moved aside, that requires using energy differently. The words hard work. Hard work. If you just work hard, you'll get what you want. And beloved masters, these children that have been born in much more recent times, within the last 45 years, those children are still getting caught up in the concept of hard work that the old order has been clinging to. And yet, many of them are taking the idea of hard work and seeking to discover how to make it easier. So, the relaxation of the grip of how things have to be, and the idea that they have to be how they've always been, when you release that, you begin to tap into the energy flow of spirit called synchronicity. And the flexibility. I don't have to work 12 hours a day, 16 hours a day to achieve my goal. I can get involved in a work schedule where I share with others so that we all benefit and we all have time for joy. Because hard work becomes an obsession. And there's no time for pleasure, for quiet. Many people sleep only a very, very few hours because they are so driven by an internal compulsion to produce, even if it's nothing but the production of chaos. So each individual is in a process of healing, of clearing, of clarifying, really, what am I about here? Not intellectually making decisions, this is who I am and this is what I have to do, but this is who I am. And I can love that. I can love who I am. It is not about picking through to find the flaws. This is what I have to get rid of. It's about, for perhaps the first time in this journey, discovering the magnificence of yourself and integrating the flaws into it. And the ego mind says, oh, you'll contaminate the whole. No, beloved masters, there's always some darkness in the light. So, as your flaws are integrated into the whole, Spirit begins to transmute the energy of what cannot be used in a timely way now. But even those flaws can be like ingredients in a recipe. And even though you would not want to eat mouthfuls of salt, if you stir the salt into the whole, it makes it all much more palatable. No one particularly likes the taste of baking powder, and yet when you stir it into the recipe, it creates a leavening agent. It rises up. So when perhaps some of those flaws still have the ability to help you rise up if they are integrated into the whole. Perhaps courage that has been encapsulated in fear, but once the fear is transmuted, the courage was still there to help you rise up, stand up, move forward, become more. So the judgments limit the scope of what you can be with, what you can have, how you can use it. The ego mind questions your inner wisdom. So as the spiritual human is beginning to evolve, blossom within you, then it is, dearly beloved masters, you become progressively more aware of blessings, beauty, capabilities, talents that perhaps you have been discouraged from getting involved with. The arts have perpetuated civilization, not war. So where there is combat and control, there's always limitations, and very often extremely destructive elements. But when those energies are introduced into the positive desires to become more, then the creative art within you, I am that I am, one with all that is. I am a co-creator with the divine. When that is blended, then the courage to express your art, the courage to expand the talents that you have, but perhaps you've held yourself back because if they find out how talented I am, will they still love me? Or will they envy me? Or will they hate me? Or will they turn away? Because I desire to be myself, but I must guard what that is and how much others know so that I can still be loved. and His Spirit surrounds you and indwells you, the delight of being who you are becomes, if you would, a guiding light to your forward motion. And it isn't, I love who I am and what I do to the discount of others. It is, I love who I am and how I create, and I feel good about sharing that with others. Because they cannot take my energy. It belongs to me. They can take my idea and they can create something. But what others will create with my idea will not be what I will create with my idea, because each one is unique. And one person can have an absolutely brilliant idea, and someone else can take the idea, but it will be augmented or it will be limited by just how much the one who takes the idea will give to it. And the truth of it is, the one who brought forth the original idea may still have the greatest amount of energy to devote to that concept, that idea, that creation, because ideas are floating in the essence and energy of the universe. It isn't something exclusive. There are those who will take an idea and they may spend time with it. They may write about it, they may create blueprints about it, they may devote quite a bit of energy to it, and then move on to something else. And what they contributed to that idea goes with it. So now it's the idea, basically, but with expansion, notes in the margin, changes in the blueprint, and the original concept remains what it is, but the potential additions are energetically available for intuitive perception to discover. And ideas may float for a long time. Timing is everything. And then someone embraces that idea, that concept, and it's time. And they become the one that gets the credit for the idea But the truth of it is, there may have been hundreds, thousands, who contributed to that potential creation before time says, now, the idea is ripe. This seed is ready to become the fruition. So in many ways, humanity is already interdependent, even though the idea that so many would share in the idea that I bring forward is almost horrific to many inventors and creators. This is my idea. I had it. I did this. I did that. And yet, there isn't necessarily a message with the idea that says, this is how long this idea has been floating around, waiting for its time. So, revelation in the 21st century is progressively, more rapidly, time is speeding up. You feel that. It seems as though time goes so quickly. It's no longer the turning of the page of the calendar. It's almost as though you ruffle the pages and the year is gone. And yet, the necessity in this process of evolving into spiritual humans requires that you slow down. And what you see in the physical world, quickly, 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 you must move quickly, move fast, you must get there before they do, you must grab what they might grab, because if you don't get there first, if you don't get there fastest, if you don't get the idea before others do, you'll lose. The ego still attempting to keep its hold. Even as the translation from one form of life to another is occurring, the ego is still attempting to control how humanity is. So to feel calm, to feel tranquil, to feel peaceful. And when you begin to feel the dithering of the ego mind, the yama that attempts to pull you back into the old ways of separation and limitation, that you keep tuned in to the peace, inner peace. Because the ego mind says, how can I be peaceful? Look what's going on out there. If they would just stop that, then I could be peaceful. You're not separate from the whole, but you are your own unique, individual being. So you have the power, that divine inner connection, you have the power to be peaceful. And as you change your energy, you make a difference in the collective consciousness. As you change your focus, you begin to contribute greater harmony to the whole. As you let go of the fear of what they are going to do to me, you make a greater space within you for that conviction. I am safe. I am whole. I am a part of the all. The sum total of all is greater than any one of its parts. And yet, if there are parts missing from the all, they can be very noticeable. It doesn't mean the whole can't be whole. But as parts that were holding out, I am not going to participate in an allness because I'll lose myself. No one will know who I am. Or if I'm in the all, then I'm constantly abraded by all the others that are there, and I will have no sanctuary. Your sanctuary is your sacred space. The more that you honor that, connect with it, recognize it, experience that alignment, the more whole you feel. You feel your place in the allness within yourself. It's most interesting in these times where there has been a necessity throughout time to come home to self. That suggestion has been being offered for the last 150 years. Come home to self. The awakening, the remembering is beginning. And yet the logical mind says, I don't have any idea what coming home to myself means. It's how you use your energy. Because the illusion has encouraged people to live away from themselves, to live out there in the future. You go out there and you try to find what you think you don't have and grab it and bring it back here. And that isn't how creation works. God is emerging. The balance of the divine feminine that has been subverted for so long. And Goddess is not coming to create a female war. Women don't achieve their excellence, their power, acting like a man. The power of the divine feminine is to dream, to create, to share the dreams with the divine masculine. But it's a blending, it's a balance. It isn't matriarchy and patriarchy. It is the wedding of the divine couple within. Your internal masculine nature and feminine nature blending, so that there is an augmentation of who you are, rather than some loss because I came together with myself. Getting clear who you are. And your mind may simply fall into a centrifuge of confusion when you start trying to find out who you are intellectually. Because the logical mind, the ego mind, functions on theory. Maybe. Could be. What if? It functions on concepts. Great idea. Sounds good to me. Makes sense. But it does not function on bringing it all together for the experience that is the testing ground for what you're creating. The experiential living is a part of being a sacred human, a divine human, a spiritual human. The conscious clarity, the immediate, in this moment, awareness of how this creation serves me. The experience is the defining moment. When the car is tested, when the computer program is tried out, when any invention or creation is put into play. What requires to be fine-tuned? What requires to be replaced? What requires to be added? Experiential living tunes you in to your grasp of the creative essence that is yours to design and define your life. And the choices that you make are a gift to the whole, even if you didn't mean it that way. So, even though the mind would tell you you're separate, you're not like them, you're not one of those, you're better. Or in unfortunate situations, you're worse. I say unfortunate to believe you're worse, when in truth, beloved masters, to believe you're better is just as erosive as believing you're worse. Because superiority takes so much life out of life. And inferiority simply keeps you in the dark. So, beloved masters, it is so important for you in these times to forgive fighting what's going on outside of you and begin to get clearly aligned with what you are experiencing within you. Pay attention to what your ego mind keeps telling you. You attempt to come home to yourself and the ego says, "Are you sure you can trust that? Are you sure that's not dangerous?" That could be evil, you know. Especially if you dare on your own to pick up the line to God and listen without someone else telling you what God said to you. Without having to have an external interpreter. It doesn't mean that if someone gives you some input on something you've said about what you feel, that they're wrong. It simply means, beloved masters, it's more imperative than ever that you participate in your life. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it can lead to subversion, and it can also lead to rebellion. So, you told me what you thought I should do. What makes you think I should do that? I dare you to make me do it. Or, all right, you told me what to do, but it doesn't feel good. But because I have to do what I'm told, I'll do it. And then if it doesn't work, I can blame you. The games, the insidious games of the ego mind, as it has throughout such a long time that the finite mind has no concept of when this illusion began. It is that the ego has just very subtly undermined the connection to the divine. It's still there. It's still in place. It's still available. The line is open. God didn't go anywhere. But you've lived so long with that subtle suggestion from the ego that to think for yourself, to create for yourself, to have your own ideas and ideals is inappropriate. God will tell you what to do. And in that respect, beloved masters, I say, and who be God in this place? Because God is the divine creative source. And to allow yourself to hear clearly in the midst of the chaos is a part of the homecoming. Spirit will not direct destruction. The ego mind is the calculator of destroying, chaos, confusion. Spirit empowers. It shores you up. Spirit doesn't whisper about loss and instill fear of what others might be doing. That is how the ego mind has created the confusion of illusion. When you feel confused, the ego is your advisor. And it is when you don't know what to do, wait. Because the ego will say, no, you've got to do something and you've got to do it right now. Don't think about it, just do. And you may run and run and run and run until when you finally come to yourself, you have no idea where you are. But when you have no idea what to do, center in, listen within, and be patient. And the discipline of waiting can be the key to the synchronicity that is a gift from Spirit that allows you the divinely appropriate connections, messages, opportunities, and gifts. Because you are so loved that these divine gifts were a part of the original creation. And it's time for each human being in that process of being a spiritual being to rediscover the wonders that belong to you, that you can find, can feel, can experience in your sacred center. And so, beloved masters, evolution on the planet, revelation not only of who you truly are, and it isn't the worst part, it's the all. And the movement in integration to discover there's so much more available, waiting for you, if you will simply be willing to embrace it. And so, we will take a time for resting the body a bit, filling the belly, and it is that we will come together again in an hour and a half. In love. And so, beloved masters, move yourself into a comfortable position. Whether it's sitting, or lying down, get in a comfortable position. Make the adjustments that you require to get your body in a place where it is easy, relaxed, where you feel safe. Quietly breathe in. I am connected. Breathe out. I am still connected. And in that place of connection, to feel yourself moving deeper within yourself. Deeper. The energy is in the area of the heart. Deeper. Into the solar plexus. Still, peaceful, comfortable, quiet, with your inner eye. Look around you. And as you look around, you will find an opening. It may be a very tall door. It might be a small, rounded door. It may be bright, or it may be soft wooden color. Approach this door and feel the energy that is coming to you from behind the door. It may be the energy of mystery, a feeling of invitation, a feeling of welcome and belonging. But as you feel it, you feel in your soul center that call of your inner self, calling you to step beyond the door. And you may feel a sense of trepidation, of concern. What lies beyond the door? And so you gather your courage, feel it supporting you in your solar plexus, because the call that you feel behind the door is the call to enter in to your sacred space. It is safe. It is welcoming. And still you may feel a bit of hesitation. So walk to the door and grasp the handle and open the door. You may open it all the way, or you may open it just a bit. But behind that door is the entrance into your sacred space, where you come to be with your sacred self. Some might call it the higher self. It is the part of you that has forever remained connected to the divine. It has been with you through all of your lifetimes in physicality. It has waited within as the mind has said, you don't want to go inside of yourself. There's nothing there. There is no necessity to enter into that inner darkness. When there is so much outside of you to capture your attention. And yet as you step in to this sacred space behind the door, you are greeted with warm light. It isn't brilliant or blinding, because the invitation is for you to see what actually awaits you within yourself. The homecoming. This place of quiet intimacy where you remember all that you are. Who you were in the beginning. And how you have moved through lifetimes to observe and, yes, to feel how you have moved away from that connection. And yet, how that love, that spiritually divine being that you are, has waited. Waited for you to come home. Waited. Waited for you to feel the time to be united with yourself. To step into your sacred space and begin to look about. This space is your creation. This space has always belonged to you. This space holds all of the mysteries and the memories, and yes, recollections of why you have not been here in so long. And yet, the more that you move about, look, feel, touch things, the more you recall, yes, this is mine. This is so familiar. I have wondered where these feelings went. For there was a time when they were so with me. At any moment in any day, I felt this essence, this energy, this total sense of I am, that I am. And just allow the memories, the love, the tenderness, the compassion to wash over you, to fill you up. So that every cell feels that sense of belonging. And you, as you know yourself today, remembers, this is what I've been seeking. This fills the longing. this revelation of who I truly am and always have been. And the sense of smallness simply begins to disappear as you own this expanse that is who you really are. And you may actually feel that you are adjusting your physical body to sit a little taller. If you are envisioning that you are walking around in your sacred space, to stand taller, to open up your solar plexus so that the breath of life fills you. Inhale, exhale. The breath of life fills the sacred space. The essence of the divine tingles like a soft wave of electrical energy throughout your body. Gentle, pleasant, integrating all of your energy bodies together. The aura, the essence of the physical body. And the within space where your sacred place abides is in the energetic center of light that resonates, that is connected to this vortex of energy between the physical heart and the physical splenic chakra. But it's your power, your holy place, your sacred space. And it nurtures you. And you become aware that energy is available to you whenever you require. To take in the energy in your sacred place, to sit quietly there, just letting everything that is about you integrate together. Your sacred self is vast. What you might call your human self may seem so small in comparison to the impression of that sacred self, and yet this human is that divine being. This is how you have kept yourself so small for so long. And as the beauty and the peace and the wonder amazing grace grace, the essence and energy of love without any condition. Grace that simply slips away the old energies, like robes that can be discarded now. Grace that changes how you move in your physical body, how you feel in the energy that has been the emotional form. And it's now being transmuted from anxiety and worry and doubt to the smooth, gentle, fluid feelings of the higher consciousness. That the mind, the chaotic mind, that talks constantly, is blended with the sacred mind. In the physical form, it is the essence of right and left brain coming together, blending in balance and harmony, so that the perceptions in the physical world are clarified. They are clearer, they are more defined, that as you look at the world through your physical eyes, you begin to see things in a different way, almost as though you feel what you see much more than you have before. not the feeling of being cut off or set apart from things, but a feeling of being a part of all. And the confusion of the illusion simply begins to melt away. And as it does, it's almost as though the cacophony of sound associated with the physical world is now turned down and down and down. And what begins to emerge is music that fills you up. It may be soft and quiet and still as a lullaby. It may be a very pleasant refrain that seems so familiar that you find yourself wondering, when have I known this before? It may be the lively refrain of a Celtic dance, of the Scottish dances, of the reels of many lands when what is termed the square dance is danced. And you may find that even sitting in your sacred space, you begin to tap your toes or pat your hand to keep time with what you're here feeling within you. And it seems as though time passes, and yet it also seems as though it might be standing still. So the definition of time and space begins to change. Time is no longer pressing upon you with the insistence that you've got to do things faster. And you begin to feel in warmth and relaxation a sense of confirmation. Everything will be completed in its time. And it is that as you allow that, you may find that your physical body begins to relax. Your shoulders very gently drop until they are where they normally would be. And perhaps you did not realize that you were carrying your shoulders almost up to your ears. And as they gently move down, it's almost as though in that there is another flow of expansion. More room to breathe. More room to hear and see, and more time to spend with things that you enjoy. You may feel the easing of the need to talk. For many in these times feel rushed to say what they have to say, that there isn't time for them to fully express themselves. And as you sit in this quiet place that belongs to you, you begin to recognize, as I am clear with who I am and what I desire, I convey the essence of my energy all about me, as though intrinsically I express my worth and value. No necessity to tell others who I am or how great I am, but simply to quietly delight in being immersed in that energy of recognition. It is well. It is well with my soul. And the recognition that the higher self is not something separate. The higher self is truly who I am. And you feel more complete. And in that feeling of fulfillment, you realize that as you fill with the energy of contentment, of gratitude, of accomplishment, you also find that the anxiousness to achieve, to prove who you are, isn't nearly as intense, and it seems to be dissipating, moving away. as the gentle element of wind, of air, blows things that no longer serve you into the ethers. And where the mind has said, if you release what no longer serves you, then you contaminate the whole. It begins to dawn on you, enlightenment, that as you release what no longer serves you, Spirit transmutes it. So that energy is available. Not that someone else would take your energy away from you, but as the energy of old is transmuted, it becomes neutral, available for any and all to use from the cosmic source. Unlimited energy. And it begins to occur to you, with unlimited energy, I'm not moving myself to burnout, trying to get everything that needs to be done quickly so that I can get to the fun. And you begin to feel a difference in the soul center, that drive, the desperation to get all of the chores done so that I have time to play. And this is an element of the ego mind, the parental order, that no matter how much you do, there's always more to do. And another point of enlightenment fills you, that you don't have to do everything in this moment. For now is forever. Accomplish in this now what you can accomplish comfortably, joyously. And now things are different. Feel it. And now you have the energy to accomplish more. And when the focus is no longer the need to get things done so that you can escape, you find it's easier and easier to accomplish what is important, and to enjoy everything in your life so much that what once seemed heavy and restrictive now feels exciting, exhilarating. And what was once hard work is now a joyful space of accomplishment. And the burdens of physical affairs began to drop away. The tightness in the back of the neck, across the shoulders, down the backs of the legs, in the belly, begins to relax. And yet it isn't as though now you slouch or you collapse in on yourself or you just need to lie down all of the time. You find that as the old tensions melt away, again, you feel stronger. You sit taller, you stand straighter. You move with a grace that you had no idea you had. Entering the sacred space and coming home to all that you are is also as though you have accessed a treasure trove of gifts, things that you have wished you had, things that perhaps you believed you never could have, things that you were fighting for. Feel it. They belong to you. The gift of feeling friendship with strangers. A sense of warmth, of caring and sharing, without the old suspicions and doubts. What do they want from me? What can I get from them? Instead, it is the open hand and the open heart and the open mind and the sense of awareness, of being alert, so that if there is a necessity, to be more protected, you will accept it and allow it as Spirit provides it. But the gullibility of the illusion, the need to have things be a certain way and no other, all of those confinements and restrictions just seem to melt away with the shadows that hid things that the mind was fearful about. Your sacred space is open and available to you all of the time, every moment of every day. And now that you've found it, you are there. You go about your life, your affairs, with new connection and protection that has been waiting until this time when you would finally surrender the old ways and come home. Finding that the choices that you make will strengthen you or cause you to feel weak. Recognizing that you are the author of your life. If others tell you what to do, you can listen and you make the choices of what feels appropriate. Choices no longer made in fear or resistance. Ideas that can be accepted without anger or retribution. And the energy becomes yours if you desire it, if you are willing to allow it. And you feel the absolute freedom that comes when there are so many souls moving into harmony. So many people living in love. And the walls simply vanish. And you feel safer and more protected than you ever have. you find it so much easier to focus on the joy of what you desire to create rather than why you cannot. You find it so much easier to have the faith that your good is waiting for you to accept it. Your sacred space, the door is not locked. And in the future you may find the door is not even there. That your holy space is protected by the divine. That you can walk in love and live in trust and express with that realm of power the alignment, the things that sustain you as a spiritual human. Feel it? Feel it? Live it. And be amazed at how every experience, even those that would have challenged you to overwhelm before, now become an intriguing opportunity to know yourself more clearly, to appreciate yourself more thoroughly, to own your own worth and value without believing that others must tell you you are valuable because your idea doesn't count. You begin to understand your sense of worth and value. Not that you're greater or lesser than any of the others, but that you are intrinsically all that you can be. And that is growing and expanding gently. To sit and take in who you are, and then to go about your affairs in the physical world and find that how you feel about things, how you perceive your life and the lives of others is changing. No longer standing behind the wall shouting at others to go away, but moving about openly, divinely protected in an energy of unconditional love, willing to share that with any and all who will receive, and yet being clear, you cannot make another being accept the good if they are not ready and willing. But as you live it, without force, without rebellion, without righteousness, as you live yourself well and true, you contribute energy to the collective that is a healing in the flow of the whole. Feel the light. See the light within you. Feel the protection within and without. Here feel the sound, the sense of peace and harmony. And as you fill to overflowing, then you are not losing the good, you are sharing it, because the overflow pours into the collective consciousness. We are, I am, one. So breathe in a deep breath. I am connected. And as you let it go, I am still connected. And gently allow yourself to become aware of where your physical body is, and yet to appreciate that you are completely blended with your sacred self, so that as you are willing, the experience of living as a spiritual human becomes more and more the most natural thing to be. In any situation or circumstance, and when the anger comes, which, because these are times of clearing, it will from time to time, rather than turning it against yourself or others, put it in the violet flame that sits on the altar of your sacred space, and allow peace support, and belonging to fill the space where the anger was. And so, beloved masters, gently open your eyes. Allow yourself to energetically sit, feeling connected to the center, which means that you feel grounded. When you feel that part of you is not with you, then you are not altogether steady about what you are creating. When you feel that all of you, mind, body, feelings, and spirit, are blended, then you feel a sense of solidarity, reality, as you move about your life. And so, beloved masters, we send you forth into your evening to remain in this place, to live your life in clear connection to your sacred space. There is no necessity to leave it to get about your affairs. The ego would attempt to convince you that you cannot operate in the physical world if you are connected to your sacred being. And yet, as you're willing, you will find life lived connected is so much easier, so much more joyful than life lived separately. Go you forth into your evening. Be with others and be with yourself. And we will come together again on the morrow. Peace be with you.